Trump started war with Iran because he's being blackmailed by Israel. Well, hi there. So my hypothesis is that Trump started a war with Iran because he's being blackmailed by Israel. And so let me maybe explain why, my reasoning or my hypothesis here. Epstein spent years working for the Mossad. And this is not this is a known fact. This is not something that is speculative or something that is unknown to many people. Maybe unknown to some people, but people know who Epstein was and who he was working for. Now, even police departments here from West Palm suggested that he was given leniency because he was involved in the intelligence community. And no one really said which intelligence community, but some of his closest confidants that work with him suggested, and not only suggested, said explicitly that Mossad employed Jeffrey Epstein in everything that he did. They paid him well, and he collected information on many different, many people, world leaders, prominent people, and he met on regular basis with Ehud Barak, who was the He was at some point he was the prime minister of Israel, and then also he was the highest intelligence officer in Israel for a long time. So Epstein and Ehud Barak met on a regular basis for decades. And so we know that Epstein had photos and videos of many things that were going on. He kept a lot of meetings private, away from everyone. There was no record of it. We're getting people now arrested all over the world for association with Jeffrey Epstein, and we know that he was heavily into the criminal art world as well. He had in his possession at least two that people have recognized, two stolen pieces of artwork, and they've been identified by art experts in the inventory of items that were seized from Jeffrey Epstein. But back to the original hypothesis of, I think that Donald Trump is being blackmailed by Israel, since Epstein collected all this evidence. He, in no doubt, collected evidence on Trump as well. And whether you want to admit or not, Trump was not the nicest guy when he was younger to people. Obviously, there's FBI files that implicate him in rape of children. So if he and Jeffrey Epstein, his best friend for 15 years, were close enough, I'm sure that Epstein kept an eye on him. And I'm sure that he recorded probably Trump in compromising situations. And whether they're related to child exploitation or not, I don't know, but he definitely recorded Trump in certain circumstances. He had to. That was his job for the Mossad. And so fast forward to, now, where Donald Trump didn't want to talk about Epstein. Why are we talking about Epstein? Epstein is old news. Why does anybody want to talk about Epstein? Who's concerned about Epstein? Well, the entire world is concerned about Epstein, except for him. And finally, he saw that he had to release the files, because whether he signed the law or not, 99.9% of Congress approved the law to release the Epstein files. And now we have a war with Iran that has absolutely no basis. There's nothing that the intelligence community, many members of the intelligence community have came out and said that there's no basis for this. There was no imminent threat to the United States. The only threat that might have been maybe was towards Israel. However, we're not Israel, we're the United States of America, so I'm not sure why we are bombing Iran in the name of Israel, and killing innocent people. So, but because no normal person would just bomb this country because kind of retaliatory bombing, like just about every president did some kind of against another country, including Iran. And not to mention, also, Iran was already bombed. And according to Trump, in his words, the nuclear program was totally obliterated. So either it was obliterated and he's lying now, or he was lying then and it wasn't obliterated, right? So you can play in that direction. But I still think that at the end of the day, there's dirt on Donald Trump in Israel, and Netanyahu keeps showing him little clips and videos of him doing dirty stuff, and Trump has, in order to save his face, he is forced to bomb Iran. I think he's forced to bomb Iran. It's because he refuses to admit to his guilt. He refuses to step down. So now he's controlled like a puppet by the state of Israel. Right. And it's funny, every time I talk about that, next thing you know, the algorithms here on YouTube basically hide my videos, my live streams, so that no one can see them. It's interesting that happens. So I'm sure there's some influence that is happening from the Israeli side. But let's see. So far, we have 61% people think that yes, and 40% or so, 39% people that think no. So agree with me. No, I'm pretty sure that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but conspiracy theory based on a lot of circumstantial evidence that is there. It's literally written into the Epstein files, and so and just for funsies, I took 30 or 40 files from the Department of Justice website, and I put those in through two AI algorithms through ChatGPT and Google Gemini, with the hypothesis of was Jeffrey Epstein an agent for the Mossad, and the algorithms spit out within 85 to 95% certainty that he was. So we already know that. I mean, it's publicly proclaimed by other people that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein that either Mossad or Mossad came to talk to them after they interacted with Jeffrey Epstein. So this is not some conspiracy theory, and there's not some whatever. These people are the people who actually said that people that were friends with Jeffrey Epstein that admitted that Mossad the Israeli intelligence was interviewing them. Right? There's one email from Epstein to another associate that talked about doing screenings for people that are going to work for Ehud Barak, right? So like run background checks and fingerprints and everything else, and housekeepers and everybody else, to make sure that these people are not some kind of enemies of Israel or whatever. So, and as many times as the word goyim or goy appeared in Jeffrey Epstein files when he was conversing with other Israelis or other Jews, demeaning the non-Israelis, non-Jewish people, which is the rest of us, I think that speaks highly to the character of Jeffrey Epstein. So he was a sociopath. He lacked any remorse. He was an agent for the Mossad, so he was a spy, and he was a pedophile, right? And then of course he was friends with a bunch of other pedophiles or people who didn't see anything wrong with him being a pedophile. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the evidence that Jeffrey Epstein has collected on Trump is what's ultimately putting us at war with Iran right now. It has nothing to do with nuclear armaments or imminent strikes or any kind of other bullshit theory that the government, the executive branch, wants to put out in front of us right now, because that's not it. So yeah. And then somebody says that Epstein is alive. Well, yeah. So there was quite few people actually reported seeing an individual walking through Israel that looks just like Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe a little bit of a beard and sunglasses, but unmistaken likeness of Jeffrey Epstein. So plus we again, there's some files missing from timestamps missing from the camera and from the place where he died in jail cell. So who knows? Maybe his body was switched with somebody else. Maybe he's living his best life now in Israel. And you know, if Israel was his sponsor, he provided a lot of dirt for them, so they would be grateful to him for as long as he's alive. They wouldn't be killing him. This guy it's done. He's probably a national hero in Israel. I'm gonna say that's probably what they do. That's probably they're probably praising him for all his work. At least the intelligence community over there. I mean, they do. Israel has a law where if you're Jewish and you commit a crime in any other country, and if you're there, they celebrate them. They keep them there. So this is not. Again, this is a fact. This is not something that's out of the realm of possibility. This is an actual fact that the state of Israel does not extradite people who claim to be Jewish or claim to be Jews, and when they run away from whichever country they lived in prior, where they committed crimes, they always have a safe haven in Israel. So that's why I think Miller should be arrested as soon as possible, because that guy is a guy grown up to be a little neo-Nazi. I just can't find him how he grew up to be a neo-Nazi. But anyway, yeah. So that's my So that's the other thing. So there was actually few doctors that pathologists that routinely do pathologies, and then they review cases, and they from what they saw, from what they reviewed, was that there was not Jeffrey Epstein. There was certain marks on his body that were not consistent with Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm not sure about the dental records, but those could be obviously easily falsified. They're all on the computer, right? So you can easily falsify these. You can, probably Israel probably has some of the better hackers in the world, so like the Chinese do. So they can probably easily hack into whatever dental records and replace the existing records of Jeffrey Epstein with whoever the random person that they stuffed in the cell to be portrayed as him. So yeah, I don't like conspiracy theories. I am not a conspiracy theory person, but just when the Epstein files got released and I started looking through them, and that one curious name, Ehud Barak, came up 8,000, 9,000 times, files where Trump's name came up 5,000 times, right? But Ehud Barak's name came up 8,000 times, and I started just browsing through each file with his name on it, and literally every file was an appointment, it was a meeting, was a get together, was some sort of visit, always friendly, always nothing official, always friendly. And then these emails, it was Ehud Barak being introduced to some of the creme de la creme of American politics and American society and scientists and people alike and educators. So to me, it seems like Epstein was not only a spy, not only a pedophile, but he was also sort of a conduit for the Israeli intelligence to get their hands in, their hoofs into prominent people around the world, particularly in the United States, and keep those people under surveillance, right? Or somehow convince them to work for the Israeli intelligence. And I don't know. And I don't think Trump ever worked for the Israeli intelligence, right? One of the people that I don't think, because I'm sure Epstein was a pretty good judge of character, right? He was probably an excellent judge of character, being that he's a spy, also being a sociopath, because he went unscathed for so many years, so he was able to manipulate his way in and out, either with help or without help of Israel, but probably with help of Israel and Mossad. And he was well protected by any standard. But he probably associated with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump opened up all these doors to other people. Donald Trump is not necessarily the smartest guy in the world, and he's compulsive, he's explosive, he's just, you can't tell him a secret or anything like that, because he just blabbermouths everything. So Epstein probably used him as a conduit to meet all these people, all these famous people, all these people that he could spy on or somehow convince to work for the Israeli intelligence. So it was, I think that was Trump's role with Epstein, was to be a conduit, nothing more than that. So, and of course, they enjoyed partying together, and by partying I mean assaulting children. So I don't know why we are so damn stupid here in the United States, that instead of going after these people that are in the files, bringing up in front of a judge or throwing them in jail, and then say, you know what, prove that you're not fucking guilty, because if you're being accused of being a pedophile, you shouldn't have the luxury of just roam around the world, because that gives you opportunity to be a pedophile again, even more. So, or even associating with a criminal such as Jeffrey Epstein, because anyone who associated with him and gotten rich off of him literally got rich off of pedophilia. So, yeah. So imagine being that person, that you're rich off of pedophilia. Ugh. This is disgusting. But anyway, let's see where we at with our voting here. 19 votes, not slow day today, I guess. But majority of people agree with my hypothesis, and again, smaller proportion, which is exactly what most of these polls that I take reflect basically reflect along the political ideology. Usually, it's if the question blames Donald Trump for something, it's going to be 60-40. 60% of people agree with me, 40% people will be defending Donald Trump. If it's a question of that doesn't necessarily implicate Donald Trump, but implicates a policy, then there's going to be more of an even split vote. But yeah. So, but anyway, since there's nobody here listening to me, I think I'm going to go, because there's no point in wasting my breath if no one's out there listening. But to the ones who turned in, I thank you very much for tuning in and voting. I appreciate your votes. We may not agree politically, but I appreciate your taking time to vote, and have a wonderful day.